Hello and welcome to the Supernatural Spirit Magic School. I'm St. Nick, and today we're going to do a look through the papers, looking at just some oddities from today. And we'll start with the Star, we'll go through the Daily Mail a little bit, and then end on the Sun. Strange thing today, all the papers have a different front page, which is quite unusual. You usually get the same front page on most of the papers. So that's why I thought it would be an interesting day to have a open conversation. So it's a bit like an open mic. If you're not into these sorts of open mics, then feel free to wait for the next video. But shameless plug real quick, if you want to get in touch with me, go to sales@rulesport.com. Just contact me, we can set up a consultation, and you'll see that we have a few sports angles, but it's not mostly about sport. This is mostly about international goings on, which I hope that you find quite interesting. So enough of the shameless plug, let's get into it. Right, so the first paper we got today is the Daily Star. The Daily Star's lead story, actually, not now, WW3, squeaky bomb time. So you see, it looks like a British warship wandered into some territorial waters of Russia, and so they got chased off by the Russian fleet and other military assets. So not something you want to do. We all have GPS. We know how to drive from where we live to the shopping center with GPS, so we should be able to steer our boats in accordance with international fairways. It doesn't appear to have happened this time. Moving on, we're still in the Star. Now we have the disaster which happened in Miami, Florida at Surfside. So if you're in America, I'm sure it's plastered all over the news. But here you've got, can you see it? Yeah, here you've got the article where the dozen missing in flats disaster. So you have a seaside flat complex called Surfside, which bizarrely collapsed, pancaked. Many have drawn parallels to the way it collapsed on its own footprint to that of the Twin Towers, and how that collapsed pretty much on its footprint. So that's all rather strange, being blamed potentially on some roof work and some settling underneath the building of the land, but still very strange goings on, one would say. So remember, we're looking for some glitches in the matrix, or meaning that are there timeline modifications happening? But when you got an unexplainable building collapse on the coast of Florida, the Atlantic coast of Florida, it does seem to indicate something is afoot. Now, I said foot, but I don't mean football. We're going to move to the Daily Mail. So the Daily Mail's got a different headline page. Just poor old Brittany. She is going through some troubles, isn't she? We got Lady Diana, always beautiful. But most of it is here about being able to get away from the misery of living in your house and going on holiday. The Brits love their holiday, as you probably know. So we're in the Daily Mail. Try not to ruffle the papers too much for you, but here we see all the way not buried, but on page 10 and 11 is the moment Russia opened fire. So all about this ship, the HMS Defender. So you can see lots of that on the internet, but it's a big event, a very big event. One should stay where one is allowed to go unless you want to cause trouble, right? So questions, right? Questions. Moving on, we're going to go to the Sun now. And the Sun is on a completely different thread, right? Completely different thread altogether. We're on Hancock's affair with aid. So if you're in Britain, you'll know who Hancock is. And it looks like Hancock is living up to his name, doesn't it? So yeah, Health Secretary's fling during COVID. Right, so that's that. But they haven't covered the Russian thing. They haven't covered Brittany, you know, talking about the front pages. But let's move in. There are some very interesting things because we're looking for glitches, right? So one interesting glitch is this. Pigeons. Would you have guessed it? Here we go. As the plane flies over. We'll let the plane fly over and we'll get to our pigeons. Okay, the plane's flown by. So what we have here is, on page 10, we've got the collapse of the tower. That it's not a very large article, but you can see there. You've got the 99 lost to Miami on page 10. And then you've got, so that's the Surfside stuff. And then here, you've got the Bermuda Triangle. Just the best of the headlines. Pigeon fanciers baffled as 5,000 birds vanish in race. We haven't got a coup. Someone's gonna do bird for this. Yeah, I love this stuff, as you can tell. But we've got this story about how they're racing pigeons from the northeast down to Peterborough, and 5,000 of these trained homing pigeons go missing. Now that's really quite a strange thing. And they're talking about, was it solar storm? But essentially they say there had to be some phenomena which happened to make these birds disappear or fly off course and all get separated, because they haven't been able to locate these birds. So if you do see the bird, apparently they just need a bit of rest and some water, and then they'll go off on their merry way. But definitely something in the matrix is afoot, with the collapsing building for no reason, the missing pigeons, and you had an event at Brighton as well, which is thrown into the mix, which makes it interesting. Because in Brighton, for the pier, people going to visit the pier were accidentally charged £2,000 as the fee to get onto the pier for the rides, I mean. So that's a glitch as well. So we've got several glitches which have happened yesterday and the day before, all amalgamating into something rather strange. So what's going on? Well, we know that time's 5-dimensional. We know that what happens in the future can change the past. That's the fundamentals of the magical systems that was demonstrated by Tony Stark Refat, filmed by the Greenkeeper, and directed by Angelic Annie in the Graveyard about 2.5 years ago now. So we know the past is mutable through changes in the future. If you've got enough power, and then you can change timelines. We know that that's all about cause and effect. And with Kozyrev and time density, you have time density accumulators. What's the time density accumulator that Kozyrev found that was very handy, very useful for doing cause and affecting cause? Ha! You guessed it. It's our humble newspapers. Paper holds time density. That's why the customers of Tony Stark Refat have their certificates. And those certificates are gathering time density. Now we also have the Total War Service. If you haven't read the Total War Service, you need to read it, because you see these phenomena coming to fruition. There's a list of A to I believe, of effects within the Total War Service, some of which is identical to what happened in the film 2012. In 2012, we had a massive tsunami that wiped out the west coast, or the east coast of America. And what happens when you have these huge tidal waves? Tension, pause. Buildings collapse. So therefore, if we're having glitches in the matrix, does that mean that something happens in the future to affect the past? Well, if you're familiar with the concept, and then you realize it actually is reality, the way the world works, and that the future can change the past, then the Total War Service looks like it's working swimmingly well, because one of the conditions of the Total War Service is the collapse of Cumbra Vieja, creating a massive tidal wave which wipes out all those seaside condominiums. And you'll see that it's the seaside front of that condominium of Surfside, that pancaked. So you can see that the future is changing the past by something that was written in the past called the Total War Service. Interesting, isn't it? So not only do we have the overcharging for the pier in Brighton, where we know is the home of Tim Tony Stark Refat, we've got the Surfside collapse, we've got the strangeties of HMS Defender straying into national waters, we've got the missing pigeons, and those are actually a host of other things, but we can get into them at another date. So get the Daily Star. The Daily Star, your daily pentagram, your daily pentacle, your daily pentagon, because that seems to be the place where the juicy information is being displayed and then covered in more detail in the more mainstream of papers such as Daily Mail and The Sun. I guess it's in The Guardian, don't read that very often, or the FT, don't bother with that. And sometimes with the Times, because it's got good scientific articles. Typically, it's good paper, costs a bit more. But these ones are perfect for getting in touch with what's going on and what the noosphere is feeding us. So I thought you'd all like to see some open mic thoughts on this week, and see some open mic thoughts on the way the noosphere is developing. Read the Total War Service. I'm St. Nick. Bye for now.